Today I'm going to show you how to decorate 2 lemon blueberry cakes. First step, gather your berries. If you can't find any blueberry bushes nearby, store-bought is fine, but they must be fresh, not frozen. By the way, all the recipes I use will be linked in the description below. While my cakes were baking, I started making some blueberry simple syrup. I tweaked the recipe slightly to give the syrup a more blueberry color, and the way I did that was to puree the warm mixture together before straining the liquid through a fine strainer. I also kept the leftover blueberry bits for later too. Here are the items I used for the first cake, and now it's time to start decorating. I'm using the tip of my offset spatula to spread the frosting around where I need it. Once the entire cake layer is covered in buttercream, I use the full edge of my spatula to smooth and level it before adding the next layer of cake. Before I decorate any cake, I make sure to chill my cake layers, but for this one especially, you need to make sure that your cake layers are nice and cold. Those fresh berries are going to make the cake layers very tender and make it difficult for you to crumb coat otherwise if it's not nice and cold. So make sure that you either refrigerate or freeze your cake layers before you start your frosting. To crumb coat, I'm using my offset spatula to fill all the little cracks and crevices with this cream cheese buttercream. If you're having any issues with your cake falling apart as you frost or the layers are slipping and sliding around at this point, don't panic. All you need to do is pop your cake back into the fridge or freezer for about 30 minutes. This will harden the buttercream like cement, securing your layers together nicely. I really cannot reiterate enough how helpful cooling your cake is to decorating, okay? Here I am just using the rest of the cream cheese buttercream to fill in any spots that need built up better. Since the cream cheese frosting is a little bit thicker, I wanted to use that to help build it up, but don't worry, all that's going to get covered up with the vanilla buttercream for the final coat. Now I'm just building up my final coat with a thicker layer of frosting to cover up all those cake layers underneath. Take your angled spatula and pick up large globs of the vanilla buttercream, dabbing it onto the cake in the places where it needs it, and then using that angled spatula to smooth everything out before it's time for our scraper tool. Take your scraping tool and line it up evenly with the side of the cake. Holding your scraper firmly in place, turn the cake to scrape the buttercream off in even layers. Make sure that you're cleaning off your scraping tool between each swipe. While you're scraping, if you notice any areas needing to be filled in more, go ahead and do that before scraping it down again. Here I am just building up the sides where the gaps were forming while scraping. So round and round, over and over, just smoothing it out. For the top, I hold my scraper level with the cake and pull inward all around the cake. Again, I'm cleaning my scraper between every swipe. Last bit of final coat here. There's a little bit of my cake layer showing at the bottom, but I'm not really worried about that because I'm about to cover that up with some of this blueberry frosting. I'm really excited for this cake because I'll be working with a bunch of new piping tips that I have never used before, and I thought the abstract cake would be the perfect way to do that. Remember that blueberry simple syrup from earlier? Well, it's fully cooled off and ready to mix into my vanilla buttercream, which I blended together with an immersion blender to make sure the color and flavor were evenly distributed. Using a piping bag, I piped thick lines of the blueberry buttercream around the cake. Then, just like before, we take our scraper tool, line it up with the side of the cake, and turn the cake to smooth the sides out. I filled in a few spots I wanted taller than the others, almost like a mountainous landscapey type look. It's a fault line cake, so I'm going for that organically shaped, rough-edged look. And now for the stressful but fun part, the piping. With the extra large icing tip, I piped a long, squiggly, rippled line of buttercream up the side and over the whole cake. You can kind of see here where my frosting broke off and I had to reconnect it to keep going, but because this is an abstract cake, the design doesn't have to be a specific way or perfectly symmetrical, so we just keep caking it. Side note, you're witnessing me use this tip for the first time. It's that easy, no practice, just go with the flow. Now I'm using the Sultan tip to make tiny bowl shapes on top of the cake, which I will later fill with lemon curd and the leftover blueberry bits. This is the first time I'm using this particular tip, and I did practice this motion a few times on parchment paper before piping it on the cake. With the petal tip, I'm piping ruffles in random spots around the cake, especially spots that I want to cover up. You can put them wherever you want, but just make sure not to overdo it. You want to leave some blank spaces around the cake so that all the shapes and textures can really stand out. I filled in the tiny buttercream bowls with the lemon curd and chunky blueberry syrup, leveling off any peaks with my angled spatula to lay them flat. I still had some leftover lemon, so I decided to make these lemon twists to put on the cake at the last minute. Next, I'm adding some blueberries all around. Then I decided it just needed a little something extra, so I used this closed star tip to pipe some star shapes here and there. If you are new to cake making, this is a great starter cake to try out some new tips and techniques without the pressure of perfectly neat details. And that's it. Time to reveal the inside. Y'all, this cake was so yummy. Every single slice was like its own piece of art. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. This is my first long-form cake tutorial video, so if I left anything out or if you have any questions, please leave a comment. And if you like this video, please give it a like. And if you love this video, please subscribe and share. You know, press all the buttons. Okay, love you, bye. The next cake design is great for newbies because all the decorations can be frozen solid before being placed neatly on the cake. If you're interested in watching, please stay tuned for part 2.